My buddy Matt was always full of shit. The kind of guy who said things like, "Trust me," right before offering stock tips he heard from a podcast or insisting the waitress was flirting with him when she was just doing her job. So when he leaned across the pool table that night and said, "Dude, I saw your wife on Tinder," I didn't even flinch. I just lined up the shot and sank the 8 ball. "Congrats," I said, straight-faced. "You've officially lost your mind." But he didn't laugh. He just stared at me, eyes narrowed, chewing on his bottom lip. Matt wasn't smiling, and Matt always smiled, even when he lied. "I'm serious, man. And I'm seriously married," I said, tossing him the cue. "She doesn't even like dating apps. She still calls Instagram that picture thing." "She's on it," he said. "No face. But it's her." I scoffed and reached for my beer. It was already warm. "You matched with someone who has a neck tattoo and owns a couch. Not exactly definitive." "Come outside," he said. I screenshotted it. And that was the first time I hesitated. Because if you'd asked me 10 minutes earlier, I'd have told you my marriage was fine. Stable. Not romantic, exactly, but not broken either. Routine dinners. Shared Google calendars. Side-by-side scrolling at night, until one of us gave in and turned off the light. But now, something turned cold behind my ribs. A flicker of something like fear. Out in the parking lot, Matt pulled out his phone and held it up like evidence in a trial. "Here." The screen glowed in the dark, too bright. A Tinder profile. No face in the picture, just a woman's bare shoulders, collarbone lit softly by lamplight. A tattoo behind her left ear, black and sharp against her skin. It was a small thing, a delicate outline of a swallow in flight. My stomach dropped, because I'd traced that outline with my finger. I'd kissed it after long days. I'd watched her hair fall over it 1,000 times when she leaned down to tie her shoes. And the couch she sat on, deep gray with a tear in the armrest, was ours. We bought it off Craigslist during the first year of our marriage. The photo was cropped tight, blurry enough to look anonymous, but I knew every thread of that upholstery. I looked at the description under the photo. "Just here for casual dates. No strings. No drama. Be real." I handed the phone back like it burned. Matt raised his eyebrows. "I'm not crazy." I didn't say anything. I just stared at the pavement, my thoughts scattering like leaves in wind. That couch was in our living room. That tattoo was on my wife's neck. And that bio, those were not her words. At least not the version of her I thought I knew. "She's probably doing some kind of joke," I said finally, hearing how pathetic it sounded. "Like a fake profile or something." "She lives with you, right?" he asked, his voice quieter now. "Same apartment? Same couch." I nodded once. "She posted that photo from your house." Matt didn't push it further. He saw what he needed to see in my face. The way I clenched my jaw. The way I stood too still. I don't know how I got home that night. I remember the drive in fragments, red lights that seemed too long, a radio station playing some stupid love song, the turn of my key in the lock, the soft chime of our hallway sensor light when I stepped in. The couch was there. Same tear. Same cushion pushed out of place. The lamp beside it was on. Warm yellow glow. Just like in the photo. And there she was, sitting with a blanket over her lap, laptop open, scrolling through Netflix. Her hair tied up, neck exposed. That bird tattoo barely visible from where I stood. "Hey," she said without looking up. "You were out late." I swallowed the lump in my throat. My mouth was dry. "Yeah, just played a few games with Matt." "Cool." I ordered sushi. "There's leftovers in the fridge." I stood there a second too long. She finally glanced up at me. "You okay?" she asked. "You look weird." "Weird?" "Yeah." That about covered it. I forced a smile, something brittle and thin. "Just tired." I kissed her cheek. It felt like a lie. That night, I lay next to her, watching her sleep. Her breath even. Her hand curled under her chin. She looked like someone I'd trust with anything. Someone who'd never lied to me. But that picture wouldn't leave my mind. Same tattoo, same couch, same woman, and the words, no drama, be real. I didn't sleep. Not that night. Not for a while. The next morning, she made coffee like nothing had changed. She stood barefoot at the kitchen counter, one hand on the coffee pot, the other scrolling through her phone. She wore my hoodie gray, oversized, soft from too many washes. It was one of the small things I used to love, the way she'd steal my clothes and act like they'd always belonged to her. But now it just looked like camouflage. I sat at the kitchen table, watching her pour the coffee, wondering how many lies could fit inside one woman's body before she cracked. If she felt the weight of them, if they kept her up at night, or if she just slept through them like they were nothing. Want some? She asked, holding up the mug. Sure. She poured it the way she always did. Splash of almond milk, 1 sugar. She set it down in front of me like a peace offering I hadn't asked for. Then she kissed the top of my head. I've got a long day. Marketing team wants to rework the whole pitch deck, and Daniel's being a nightmare about budget. Daniel, her coworker, always calling at weird hours. Always just a little too familiar in the way he texted her. I'd never liked the guy, but I'd kept my mouth shut. She slipped on her flats, grabbed her bag, and gave me a distracted, love you, before walking out the door. The lock clicked behind her, and I sat there staring at her untouched coffee. Something inside me snapped. I pulled out my phone and opened Tinder. I hadn't used it in years, not since we first met. My old profile was long gone, but it took 2 minutes to create a new one. I used a fake name, a stock photo of a golden retriever as my profile picture. Set the location radius small, within 2 miles, and started swiping. Left, left, left. It felt absurd, sitting there in our shared kitchen, surrounded by the scent of her shampoo and the hum of the fridge, swiping through strangers like I was shopping for pain. And then I saw her. Same photo, same profile. This time, the app let me read it in full. Not looking for anything serious. Just someone who knows how to keep a secret. The words hit harder in daylight. She hadn't made a mistake. This wasn't someone using her photo. This was intentional. Our apartment, our couch, her body. In that bio, I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. I wanted to message her, to say something cruel, to call her out. But instead I just sat there, phone shaking in my hand. Why? That was the part that clawed at me. Why do this? Why risk everything for? What? A thrill? A fling? Some attention she thought I wasn't giving her? We didn't have a perfect marriage, but it wasn't broken. At least I didn't think it was. We still laughed sometimes. We still made plans. We still had inside jokes that no one else would understand. I thought we were in this together. Now I didn't even know who I was living with. That day I didn't go to work. I called in sick, my voice hoarse and uncertain. Then I started digging. I went through her drawers, carefully, precisely, like a man defusing a bomb. I wasn't proud of it, but I needed answers. Nothing in her nightstand except lip balm, an old Kindle, a receipt for Thai food from 2 weeks ago. Her laptop was locked, but her iPad wasn't. I picked it up, heart hammering in my chest. She never logged out of anything. That was her mistake. Tinder wasn't there, but Instagram was. I opened it, checked her DMs. Most were harmless. Friends, coworkers, a group chat about someone's baby shower. But one name kept appearing, J. No last name, just an initial. No saved contact. I clicked the thread. J. Last night was unreal. Still thinking about that couch. Her. Haha. You're lucky I'm married. Otherwise, you'd be in real trouble. J. Who says I'm not already? Her. You're bad. I closed the app. My hands were trembling. There it was. Confirmation. No denials. No ambiguity. Just her, flirting from our living room, referencing the same couch I'd kissed her on, argued with her on, watched bad movies on while she fell asleep on my shoulder. She used that space like a stage, a lie she performed on. That night, I didn't confront her. I didn't say a word. I wanted to see what she'd do, what she'd say. I wanted to watch her lie to my face and measure exactly how good she was at it. She came home late, said something about staying after to help Daniel with slides. She smelled like wine and eucalyptus. I asked her how the meeting went. She sighed dramatically. Awful. You know how Daniel is. Everything's a fire drill. Then she looked at me, eyes tired but soft. You okay? You seem off. I smiled. Just tired. We ordered Thai food. Ate it on the couch. Same couch. She leaned into me, rested her head on my shoulder, and I let her. Because the only thing worse than betrayal is pretending you haven't seen it yet. And I wasn't done watching her perform. 3 days passed before I made my move. I didn't sleep much. Didn't eat much either. Just kept running that Tinder bio through my head on repeat like a bad lyric. Not looking for anything serious. Just someone who knows how to keep a secret. By now, the secret had a name. Jay. He was always polite in her messages. Confident. Casual. He didn't seem like someone trying to wreck a marriage. More like someone who thought he'd already won. I couldn't stop thinking about what he looked like. What kind of man she'd risk everything for. I imagined him younger. No wedding ring. Someone who didn't keep floss in the cabinet or leave beard trimmings in the sink. Someone less predictable. What tore at me wasn't just the betrayal. It was how easily she'd compartmentalized it. Tinder in the morning. Thai food at night. Lies tucked into the spaces between small talk and reruns of old sitcoms. I used to think I knew when she was hiding something, but now I wasn't sure I'd ever known her at all. That Sunday, she said she was going to a yoga class. She dressed in her usual soft leggings and a faded tank top, hair pulled into a loose bun. Kissed me lightly on the lips. Told me not to wait up because she might grab brunch with the girls. And then she left. I waited 5 minutes, grabbed my keys, and followed her. I didn't know what I was expecting, maybe just the reassurance of seeing her walk into a yoga studio, confirming that I was wrong, that I'd misunderstood something, anything. But I knew I wouldn't find that. She didn't drive to yoga. She went west, toward the lakefront condos where the rent spiked and the cars got shinier. I stayed a few cars behind, nerves jangling with each turn. She didn't look in the mirror once. Didn't suspect a thing. When she pulled into a guest spot in front of a sleek building with mirrored windows, I parked half a block down. Watched her get out, fix her hair in the reflection of her car window, then walked toward the elevators like she belonged there. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. I wanted to go in, to storm up whatever floor she'd gone to and demand answers. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I waited. 43 minutes later, she came back out. Alone. Hair slightly messy. A faint smudge of lipstick on her upper lip. She looked calm, pleased, like someone walking out of a massage or a nap. She checked her phone, smiled faintly at the screen, then drove off. I waited another 10, then drove up to the building and went inside. The front desk was empty, just a security camera watching the lobby. No doorman. No list. I stared at the elevator and hit up. I didn't even know what floor I was going to. I just stood there inside the elevator, staring at the lit-up panel until it opened on the 3rd floor. The hallway was silent. A line of identical doors. Clean carpet. Neutral beige walls. I didn't knock on any of them. Just stood there breathing in the stillness, trying to feel something. Rage. Clarity. Anything. But all I felt was hollow. I went home and didn't say a word when she returned. She told me brunch had been relaxing, that she and Madison split mimosas and talked about her sister's engagement. She asked what I did that morning. I told her I cleaned the car. She smiled. That's sweet. And that was it. Lie traded for lie. That night, after she went to sleep, I pulled out her iPad again and opened the messages with Jay. There were new ones. Jay, you looked incredible today. Wish you could have stayed longer. Her. Next time. I think he suspects something. Jay. So? Let him. He probably won't do a damn thing. Her. He won't. That's the sad part. I stared at that last line for a long time. Not I feel guilty. Not I'm scared. Just that. He won't do a damn thing. I should have felt anger. But what crept in instead was a cold, careful precision. She thought I'd sit in the dark, chewing on my own silence. She thought I'd look the other way until it all blew over. She didn't know what I'd already done. That same night, I created a new Tinder account. One that looked real. Stock photos of a guy slightly younger than me. A witty, curated bio. A casual charm. I set the location to match hers and started swiping. It took me 3 nights, but she appeared. Same faceless photo. Same couch. I swiped right. And so did she. It was a match. I stared at those 3 words like they were a confession. I crafted a message. Short. Flirty. Carefully worded to sound just like the men she wanted. Me, that tattoo is fire. Something tells me you like a little risk. She replied in 2 minutes. Her? Only a little? Guess you'll have to find out. It took everything in me not to respond right away. But I wasn't playing for attention. I was playing for truth. And if she wanted a secret, I'd give her one of my own. It was astonishing how easy it was to become someone else. A few carefully selected photos, one of a guy holding a drink in low lighting, one at the gym, one with a dog, and suddenly I was Nathan, 32, casually divorced, marketing consultant, just seeing what's out there. I mimicked the same tone she used in her bio. Detached. A little flirty. Light on personal details. Heavy on suggestion. She ate it up. The conversation flowed faster than I expected. Within hours, she'd revealed more to Nathan than she had to me in months. She liked whiskey more than wine now. Said she was finally figuring out who she really was. Claimed her husband had checked out emotionally and only cared about routines and bills. The bitterness in her messages didn't surprise me. What surprised me was the poetry of her cruelty. The way she turned our quiet nights into burdens. Our grocery runs into prison chains. Me, into a caricature of a man who never touched her anymore. Who didn't see her. She was rewriting the story. And in this version, she was the lonely heroine. He was the ghost. I stared at the messages each night after she went to bed, trying to recognize myself in her words. I couldn't. Whatever we'd built together, she'd already torn down and replaced with a fiction that better suited her appetite. And she was hungry. Nathan became her escape hatch. The voice she whispered to when the lights were out. The one she flirted with during meetings from the bathroom while I made dinner 3 feet away. She never suspected a thing. I escalated slowly. Let the tension build. I hinted at meeting. Teased the idea of booking a hotel. Said I didn't want anything messy, just something real, no pressure. She responded with a photo. Another faceless image. This time, her bare shoulders again, towel draped loose around her chest. The tattoo just barely visible above the curve of her collarbone. It was cropped perfectly. I didn't respond right away. I wanted her to stew. The next morning, I made her breakfast. She smiled when she saw the eggs. What's the occasion? No occasion, I said. Just wanted to do something nice. She looked pleased. Kissed my cheek. Said I was sweet. Later, while she was showering, I opened the Tinder chat again and finally replied. Meet Nathan, that photo's going to live rent-free in my head. But I think we should finally meet. I'm tired of wondering what you taste like. I watched the message go through, knowing she was 2 rooms away, towel pressed to her face, humming under the hot water like everything was ordinary. When she replied, my phone vibrated on the bathroom counter. Her. Say when. We picked Friday. She suggested a hotel halfway between her meetings, pretending it was about convenience. I knew the place. I'd passed it before. Glass-fronted, anonymous. The kind of place with more secrets than guests. I agreed. Then I set the real plan in motion. That was the first person I looped in. He didn't gloat, just nodded like he'd seen it coming. When I told him what I'd done, posing as Nathan, he let out a low whistle. You playing the long game, huh? She wanted drama, I said. I'm giving her theater. He offered to come along. Park a few cars down. Be my second set of eyes. I said yes. Not because I was scared, but because I needed a witness. Someone to see what she really was. Friday came. She left that morning in her usual casual Friday outfit, jeans, blouse, heels tucked in her bag. Said she might go straight to dinner with coworkers after work. I nodded, kissed her goodbye, watched her drive off with the same lips that had whispered to Nathan at midnight. Then I followed. I parked a few blocks away from the hotel. Matt parked closer. I wore a hoodie and kept my head down, phone gripped in my hand like a weapon. She arrived at 5:37 p.m., checked in under a name I didn't recognize. She carried a small overnight bag and looked composed. Not nervous. Not guilty. Just casual. Like this was another part of her routine. I waited 10 minutes. Then I sent the message. Me, Nathan, I'm in the lobby. From my car, I watched her phone light up in her hand. She smiled faintly, brushed her hair behind her ear, looked around, and that's when I walked inside. She didn't see me right away. Her eyes were scanning for Nathan, the man from the app, the fantasies she'd built in the quiet spaces between our life. Then her gaze landed on me, and her face froze. I stood there in the lobby, still as stone, watching everything shatter behind her eyes. She opened her mouth, closed it again. For the first time in weeks, I spoke to her directly. Hi, I said. Calm. Measured. I heard you were looking for something real. She went pale. People turned. A bell rang from the elevator. Matt stepped inside the lobby behind me, phone in hand, not recording, just there. She took a step back. Her bag nearly slipped from her hand. Wait, she said. Please. I didn't move. Let's go upstairs, she whispered. I smiled, and it felt like the saddest thing I'd ever done. No, I said. We're already exactly where we need to be. Then I turned and walked out. Not fast. Not slow. Just enough for her to feel every second of it. Every choice she made. Every secret she fed to someone who never existed. And now, for the first time, she was alone in the story. She came home that night like someone walking into a burning house hoping the fire hadn't spread. I was sitting at the kitchen table when the door opened. She stepped inside slowly, keys trembling in her hand. For once, she didn't speak first. I didn't look up. She hovered in the doorway like she wasn't sure she was allowed to enter her own home. I heard her set her bag down too gently, the metallic clink of her keychain scraping the counter. The silence stretched until it bent. Please, she said. Her voice was hoarse. I still didn't speak. She came closer, hesitated by the edge of the kitchen island like she was waiting for permission to cross into my orbit. I need to explain, she said. I laughed, quiet and humorless. The kind of laugh you make when someone sets your life on fire and brings a water bottle to apologize. You've got about 5 minutes before I forget I ever loved you, I said without looking up. That stopped her. I finally lifted my eyes. She looked like a stranger. Hair slightly unkempt, mascara faintly smudged beneath her lashes. Her shoulders hunched in a way I'd never seen before. Not defeated, exposed. No place left to hide. It was just talking, she said. At first. Just stupid flirting. I didn't mean for it to become I slammed my hand against the table hard enough to rattle the sugar jar. She flinched. Don't insult both of us. You picked the hotel. You picked the night. You packed your little bag and kissed me goodbye. You didn't trip and fall into this. She opened her mouth. Closed it again. I stood. I read everything I said. Every message. Every photo. Every lie you fed to a man who doesn't exist. She blinked. Confused. What do you mean, doesn't exist? I stared at her for a long, cold second. There is no Nathan, I said. It was me. The entire time. Her face collapsed. Mouth parted. a sharp breath drawn in like she'd been punched in the stomach. I don't, she started, but the words caught. You thought I wouldn't find out. You thought I was too safe, too comfortable to notice. You thought I'd do what I've always done, shrug, nod, let things slide. I took a step closer. But I watched you talk to me. To him. I watched you tell him that I was checked out, that you were finally being seen. I watched you give yourself away piece by piece. And you never even asked who you were giving it to. Tears welled in her eyes. You catfished me. No, I said, cold. You catfished us. You made a version of yourself you could stomach, and a version of me you could escape from. She sank into the chair across from me, one hand gripping the back like it was the only thing keeping her upright. I didn't think it would go that far, she said. It started as, I don't know, a release. I felt invisible. I needed. What? A stranger to tell you you're beautiful? A man who didn't leave dishes in the sink? Who hadn't already heard every one of your stories? She buried her face in her hands. I watched her shake beneath the weight of it. I didn't reach for her. Didn't soften. You weren't looking for love, I said. You were looking for novelty. For someone to tell you a different version of yourself. But the truth is, you were bored. And you thought I'd never find out. Her voice cracked. I didn't want to hurt you. But you did. We sat there, the air thick with the stench of something dying. Not love. Something smaller. More pathetic. The remnants of a life built on habit, on autopilot affection. I don't know what to say, she whispered. I nodded slowly. That's the first honest thing you've said in weeks. I stood, pulled out a manila folder, and set it on the table. What is this? Divorce papers, I said. Already signed on my end. Just need yours. Her mouth opened, panic rising in her throat. Wait, no. We can talk about this. We've already talked, I said. You just thought I wasn't listening. She stared at the folder like it might explode. Jacob, please. I turned away. You said I wouldn't do anything, I said, heading toward the bedroom. You said I was too broken to notice. Too dull to matter. I stopped at the door. But here's the thing about boring men. We notice everything. We just don't show our teeth until we've already decided we're done. She didn't follow me. She just sat at the table, staring at the folder. Hands trembling. Mouth pressed into a pale line. That night, I packed a suitcase. Not much. Just what mattered. A few shirts. My laptop. The old photo of us at the lake I used to keep on my nightstand. I took it and snapped it clean in half. Left her side on the table. Took mine with me. I slept on Matt's couch. She called twice. I didn't answer. There's no poetry in betrayal. Just pages and pages of dull, silent rewriting. But the ending, at least, would be mine. The day she signed the papers, she didn't cry. She just stood in the doorway of Matt's apartment, hair pulled back tight, eyes swollen but dry, holding the manila envelope like it might unseal something in her she didn't want to feel. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not in stature. In presence. Like she'd collapsed in on herself. I didn't ask if she read the fine print. I didn't ask if she understood what it meant to legally sever a life. I just took the envelope and nodded once, like that was all we had left to give each other. Thank you, she said quietly. I didn't respond. Because she wasn't thanking me for kindness. She was thanking me for not dragging it out. She turned to go, hesitated, then glanced back. Was there anything I could have said? That would have made you stay. I met her eyes for the last time. There was a time, I said. But you used those words on someone else. She nodded like she already knew that. And then she left. It was over. But it didn't feel like closure. Not at first. Closure is too clean. This was aftermath. The kind where you sort through what's left and decide what's worth keeping, what still smells like smoke, what pieces still belong to you. Matt was the first to break the silence. She really thought you wouldn't walk, he said one night over beers. That's the part one can't get over. Yeah, I said. She thought the routine was a cage. Turns out it was the only thing keeping her from falling. I didn't tell him everything. Not about the way I still caught myself checking the couch every time I walked in the door, looking for the angle of that photo. Not about how I kept rereading the last Tinder message she ever sent to Nathan. Don't flake this time. I hate being stood up. Like she didn't realize the irony of that. Like the man in her bed wasn't the one she'd stood up 100 different ways. I deleted the fake profile that night. It felt like shedding skin. She never reached out again after the papers. I think she understood that any attempt to make herself the victim would only make her smaller. I think that's what scared her the most, not the loss, but the mirror. The way it refused to lie. I moved out of Matt's after a month. Found a place downtown. Small but clean. Bare walls and quiet nights. I bought a new couch. No tears. No memory etched into the cushions. It took time to stop waiting for her voice in the hallway. It took longer to stop listening for the sound of myself trying to forgive her in the dark. I started sleeping better. I started cooking again, simple things at first. Stir fry, grilled chicken, the kind of meals you only make when you believe you're worth feeding. I saw her once, months later, across a street downtown. She was walking with someone, tall, sharp, smiling in a way that looked practiced. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did and chose not to. Either way, I didn't stop. I didn't linger. Just kept walking past the version of her that no longer belonged to me. Because that's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't kill you. It erases you from someone else's story. But if you're lucky, if you're stubborn enough, you learn how to write your own again. The final line she sent to Nathan before I walked into that hotel lobby was, "Just be real." So I was. And in the end, that was the one thing she never saw coming. Thanks for watching. If this story pulled you in, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss the next confession. Until next time, take care and watch who you trust.